What you've got to remember, some of these kids don't even go to school. The amount of kids I've had here who cannot read or write, and I'm talking 18-year-olds, it's absolutely so we introduced them to the bikes and they get fed as well. Massive thing is to feed them, because some of them won't even have had food all day, and it's a shocking reality, but they don't. They'll be living off scraps. So we'll give them something to eat, and they learn how to fix their bikes, so they'll literally transform these bikes. And we go mountain biking twice. They never turn up to school. I guarantee you that they're here an hour earlier, some of them, for this course, because they love it. But also, you'll be surprised on when we're mountain biking how many of the lads open up to you and ask you for advice.
It sounds like you are giving them like an outlet, something that they can express themselves, refine their new sense of pride and purpose, and like through giving practical skills, emotional ways of dealing with their own stuff that they're going through, and they can also relate to your experience, what you have gone through, and that impart some kind of wisdom into what they are going through now, and just use that, Energise Cycles as a community hub. Welcome to another episode of Ride to Success, the podcast that takes you on a learning journey to a more productive, creative, and active life through the power of the bike. I'm your host, Pedro Couto Lopes. You can find me on LinkedIn under my own name. And in this podcast, I explore cycling's global trends, community needs, innovative business strategies, and the journeys of remarkable individuals in the world of cycling. Today's guest is someone whose story will stop you in your tracks. Joe Grant went from a life entangled in crime and addiction to earning a university degree, and now runs a community-focused cycling company that's changing lives every single day. He's the founder of Energise Cycles, is a mountain bike coach, and a powerful voice for using bikes to break cycles literally and figuratively. In this conversation, Joe opens up about being on rock bottom, what it took to rebuild, and how he now works with young people affected by county lines, knife crime, and mental health challenges, using cycling as a tool for transformation. So if you ever doubted that change is possible, or wonder if a bike could actually save someone's life, this episode is for you. Now, before we get into the podcast, we are celebrating our amazing Ride to Success community with an exclusive giveaway. I have teamed up with the world-class cycling apparel brand CIOVITA to give you the chance to win something truly special. 500 euros worth of cycling kit. Here's your opportunity. Listen to the full episode, and at the end of it, you need to know the answer to this question. Which country did Joe move to for a fresh start and to escape his old lifestyle? Listen to the full episode and you'll know the answer. Once you know the answer, go to my website, www.ride-to-success.com, and follow the link to listen and win. You can also find the link on the show notes. Now, let's get back to the podcast. Welcome, Joe, to Ride to Success. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
Brilliant. I wanted to have you take us back to what was life before cycling became such a central part of your story.
Obviously, cycling has been realistically, but not in my blood. I've always enjoyed cycling from, I don't know, a lower age. So when we were younger, when we were younger, we were out summer holidays. We were out taking bikes up out of the local canal and building Franken bikes, and BMXing was a massive part of my life. And
of course,
there was no mountain biking when I was younger, so BMXing was great. And even come down to robbing my dad's Eddie Merckx out of the shed and turning the handlebars upside down just to make sure it wheelies properly. He'd go mad if he knew, but
Brilliant.
it's always been a part of my life. And then obviously the boom in mountain bikes came in, and and it was 10 gears on a bike when we were younger was it was, we were used to grifters with 3 gears, which one didn't work, and to have a 10-gear mountain bike was great. And then all of a sudden, we're going up these hills, and I can remember younger being, there was a hill in the local community called the Black Hill, and it was a steep,
Black Hill. Wow.
And if you,
Ominous.
if you could conquer that Black Hill, you were the king of mountain biking, and it took me 6 weeks to conquer this. And now I look at it and I think, it's just nothing, but as a young lad, it's, it's always been there.
Of course,
and, and then it was venturing out down the local sand dunes to basically thrash these bikes. But I think it was also about, I also seen the difference in what money could bring as well. And I had a few friends who were pretty well off, and these were getting bigger, better bikes. And unfortunately, we couldn't afford these. We were going with my mum.
Of course.
So obviously you go.
So is that because you come your background, like a working class background?
Yeah, so obviously mum and dad, they're both working. One was working 2 jobs, to keep us going, and then obviously they separated when I was 12, and my mum had 2 younger siblings, and it was tough for mum, and to try and keep up with the guys who were, getting these really, just a guy turning up with 18 gears on his bike was a massive thing when I had 10, and it was crazy. So you felt like, you had to obviously look into money, and then as you're getting older, your life changes, doesn't it? And unfortunately, rave music was a massive change in my life, and I went to one of these clubs, and it was an ecstasy boom, and you're finishing school and I was doing a welding. I was doing welding on an apprenticeship, and I was earning £39 a week. But it was crazy. I could see, ecstasy was about, and then, life was getting glorified with the ecstasy boom, and people.
Were you at that time already? Were you being introduced to drugs? Were you taking them?
Were you aware of them? Was about, and you're taking it when you go into these clubs. But I was getting in with guys who were selling the drugs, and I could see the lifestyle they were leading. And obviously, you're like, I'll mind a bit of this. So you dabble in it, and you get into it, and then unfortunately, it does seduce you a little bit, and then you are basically in deep, and every, you're going around these guys, and only later on in life, you think they're your friends, and they're not, and it was getting worse and bigger, and it was coming to the stage where, I was going to a nightclub and I was earning £2,000-3,000 a night, and I was big money then, and
so selling ecstasy,
getting in, and then you're using it, and then obviously as time changes, it's drugs get sophisticated, and then cocaine came on the scene, and then you're starting to use that on a weekend, and then a weekend turned into a Tuesday, and then a Tuesday it turned into a Thursday and a Tuesday, and you become basically a functioning addict, but you don't know it.
Yeah.
And I had 2 kids at the time, and
Oh, so so at that time you already had kids of your own,
obviously
and
I didn't obviously
selling.
Yeah, so obviously the kids came along about. Obviously I was 18, so around 21, 22, my first lad came, and then I had another one 2 years after. So I had 2 young lads, and if you could say it was greed, it was greed. I loved the lifestyle, and as a young lad, you think you can walk on water when you're like that, and it was honestly it's crazy, but I then realised, obviously I was working and in doing the apprenticeship, and I left that, and then I started working with my dad, down at the local docks, and trying to juggle both lifestyles, it was difficult, and you become unreliable. So you're not turning up for shifts because you're out too busy partying and you can't get up the next day.
Yeah.
But I become a different person to what I am now, and I was greedy, and I was making people do things which to keep my lifestyle going, and they were selling drugs for me, and and it's a ruthless circle that you're in, and
so you self-perpetuate. You kind of, the more you do it, the more you want, because you see the money coming in, you just carry on, and all of a sudden you're kind of locked in.
It's not just that though. It's like an ego thing. You've got to support your ego. The dark world, unfortunately, it's more peer pressured, and also you've got to sustain this living. You know what I mean? This lifestyle, and you're constantly on edge. I had cameras on my TV to make sure that no one come through my door, and you're constantly watching your back. You're out with your kids, you're looking over your back. So I think what it was though, the drugs were there.
Wow. Okay.
And you're living this lifestyle, and you're constantly stressed. You're constantly looking over your shoulder. You're constantly on the go, and your mental health suffers hugely. And it's only then when you're looking for your release, and then my release was obviously I'm still working, and as I was saying, Tuesdays come Thursdays, and little excuses where, oh, let's have a drink, let's do this, let's do that, and you're sitting there at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you have to be in work at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you haven't been to bed. And honestly, and you're going into work and you've had 2 hours sleep, but you just crack on, and but
so do you have to take more drugs just to keep up your energy, go through the day?
You learn to live with it, if you understand what I'm saying. It's your lifestyle. You don't know any other different lifestyle, so you're just cracking on, and but you're unreliable. You're a liar, because you lie about things. Why you're changing your shifts all the time, and you say you're going to be there and you never are, and addiction it's a devil in disguise, and it's only after you're in deep you realise, I need to get out of this, but you can't. Can't, and when you've got 2 kids there, and I look back now, and it's one of them. What have I wasted, and what time have I wasted? Don't get me wrong, the kids, I never ever neglected them, and they went to school every day, and my son works up, and they're older lads now. One works at the bank, and the other one works in America. So the kids they had a really good upbringing. They got everything they wanted. They weren't neglected, but I just think sometimes the time which you wasted lying in bed, not wanting to get up, and it's time wasted when kids grow up so quick. So it was.
It's time that you can't claim back that time.
Yeah. You can't. It's gone, and it's cruel, and it's literally, honestly, when you're addicted to something, it could be a sunny day, and you will get on it. It's literally just down to that, because you're thinking in your head when you're next going to be, when you're next, and it was a functioning addiction, unfortunately. And as you get older, you do realise like what you've missed out on, but how much it seduced your life. It seduced my life, and it's horrible. But it's also back to like the drug dealing and stuff like that. It was like how aggressive you could be, and how manipulative you could be to get your way. And it's a horrible world to live in. But at that time, you think it's great, and you think you're, the dog's bees, and you're walking around, I have this, and I've got a nice BMW, and I've got this, and I've got that. little do you know, you've got a police camera watching your house, and you've got lads who are, honestly, you just think you're so untouchable, and it resonates with so many of the young kids now, and I'll go on to that later on about the work I do. But
is that the way of like, of what are you describing here? Was it a way of like of gaining respect, of like,
you've got to have respect.
looking back at that childhood, to looking up to the kids,
if you've got,
and they're like, I want to feel respected, I want to be known for something.
I think you're looking to build a little bit of a legacy, I think, maybe, but a wrong legacy. So it's
you're building.
You are, and you've got to be, because that world will absolutely suck you up and spit you out, because you've got to be so vicious sometimes, but also in the respect, because you could lose a lot of money out of somebody not respecting you, and if one person takes your stack or takes your stuff, you've got to do something about it, because something else will do it, and someone else will do it, and someone else will do it, and unfortunately, it's not. You'd end up not being a nice person, and you know, it's crazy how much you can be the person which you're not really are, and your life is just spiraling out of control, but you've got them blinkers on, and you don't realize.
You don't see that the destruction happening, the destruction that you're causing to other people, the harm that you're doing to other people.
I didn't speak to my mum for must be 7 years, and I just cut it out.
Wow. Okay,
because I didn't, and it was down to my mum's partner dying of cancer, and I wasn't there for her. That made me sort of realise, hang on, what's going on here? What am I doing? You only get one mum, and I absolutely idolise my mum, and to not be at her side at the moment she most needed me, and my other siblings were there, and I'm the oldest sibling, but to not be there is something I'll never ever get back.
Yeah, I guess it sends shockwaves through your family, like you just described. It's like it jolted you. Like, wait, hold on, what?
Yeah.
Is this something that I need to be focusing? Or is this something that I need to be thinking about? What is my north star?
It is, and I thought I can't keep going on, because if I live the lifestyle that I'm doing now, I will be dead by the time I'm 40, because the lifestyle I was leading, I was overweight. I was drinking. On a big session, I could drink 2 crates of lager, just sitting there watching
2 crates.
2 crates of lager, just sitting there, and I would sit there for 15 hours.
Whoa!
It's crazy, honestly. The addiction, and before you know it, you finish work on a Friday, and it's Monday, and what have you done? You've done nothing. And this is when my kids were getting a bit older, so they're self-sufficient now. So they're out doing their own thing. So you're not needed. Obviously, I had my ex-wife. She was addicted as well, so she had a massive gambling issue, and but I won't go into that. But it's just the lifestyle we were leading. It was an addictive personality. It was an addiction, and
it was destruction.
That's the way I lived.
You are in the course of self-destruction yourself, and it's just a matter of time before everything implodes. I mean, during this time, you mentioned briefly that you were constantly watching over your shoulder, looking out for police following you. You having cameras on your home to check that for the front entrance. I'm sure there is a story here. Like, has that been like a kind of encounter with the police at any stage?
Were
you at risk of going to prison?
All the time. I think I was just that I had a good solicitor. I think I had a really good solicitor. That's all it was. I got caught, and so I think the way I went around it is that I had other people doing that, and I had a lad doing it, so he's the one at risk, and he was, so much threatened not to basically grass me up. Otherwise, there'd be conflict, not just for him, families, siblings, you ruled with terror, and it when I look back now, I think, it's not, you weren't a nice guy, to be around, and that's why, I have friends, and my friends who are younger, to about 21, 22, were my friends. Between 21, maybe 35, I had associates who I thought were friends. And now I'm back with my friends. So my life's gone round. And this is what the world of addiction, the world of crime, the world of drug dealing, you'll never ever have a friend. You will have associates that you think are friends. And it's a cruel world. And only when you stand out and look in is when you realise that was what was happening. And it's horrible to live in.
So, I mean, you briefly described that moment, that kind of visceral moment where your mother's partner passed away due to cancer, and he kind of jolted you.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Was that like the moment that you realized, hold on, I need to change here, something?
Yeah, I mean...
Or was there something that's progressive?
Obviously, every day, when you're getting older and you're stuck on that cycle, and you're like, that's it now. That's it. I've had enough now. And obviously, sometimes to beat it, you've got to want to do it in there, not in there. It's got to go in there. And unfortunately, mine was there. And it was just like, I need to do it because I've got enough money. And then something happened. So it absolutely broke my heart when I saw my mum really upset and absolutely devastated. The world had collapsed around her. And I literally seen her when literally the body was getting cremated, was when I went and supported my mum. And I was like, I can't obviously do that. It's like, how do I repair the bridges and stuff? Yeah. So it was a turning moment. So I was working then for a hazardous waste environmental company then, and I really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed the chemistry around it and the formulation and stuff like that. I sort of started to change my lifestyle a little bit and sort of try and progress and work and change. But
where did you start in that company? What was your starting position?
I was just a temporary labourer, so I was turning up on an agency, and then they offered me a full-time role, which I was absolutely stoked about, because I absolutely loved working there.
Yeah.
But addiction was still there, and I was still functioning as an addict. Not as bad as what it was, but I was still there. And then I got made up to supervisor, which I was absolutely made up about, and it gave me another sense of purpose, to get up out of bed. But I was still an addict as well, and you're letting them down, and then, it got to the point where, you're in a authoritative role, and you're not turning up to lead your team, or you're tired and you're trying to lead your team, and it was a knock-on effect in the management and stuff like that. So I eventually I left in the end. Obviously, it was like a mutual thing. It was like, we're running out of staff, and unfortunately, it was, it wasn't first in, last out. It was basically who'd been off the most, because they had the company I had worked for was basically getting bought out. So they were getting taken over by a new waste company, and it was like, listen, we need redundancies, and some people are going to lose jobs. So I lost my job, but I still wanted to stay in the industry. So I looked into maybe upskilling myself, and that was when I found that open university course for chemistry. So I enrolled on that. Good thing that gave me, I didn't have to go to uni. I didn't have to go and sit in a room. Because I used to find it hard sitting and in front of a computer. It was only later on in life that I found I've got a little bit of autism, and I can't literally sit there and my mind will just wander, and before I know it, I've not took nothing in. So this was a work at my own pace. I had a great mentor in the guy who I was working with.
Gives you the flexibility.
And he totally got me in the end, and I got through it while I was working for another waste industry company. But while I was in the old waste industry company, we designed a tank farm. So basically, it was a tubing system to go into the tanks and stuff like that. So I got involved in that. I really enjoyed the mapping out of that. So I went to another company and they were like, "Oh, we want to build a tank farm. Do you want to come and help us?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll come and help you." So I did that, but I ended up staying and I've got through my degree, and it was only when I got through my degree, I again, still functioning, still being an addict, and we had a drugs test, and I was found that obviously I had cocaine in my system from the weekend, and once again, lost job. So obviously they and you're like, I didn't, and but I did, so obviously moved on again and ended up in, so I this company asked me to, if I would project manage a recycling plant for recycling tires. Jumped at the.
So hold on. Like, this is just. So you just kind of at this stage, you just hobbling through job to job, and like hoping that no one spots your addiction and trying to cover it up. And just like a fully function addict, and just wobbling your way through different roles.
You when you're not an addict, you're the greatest worker there, and I was the hardest worker there. When I've been on the drugs, I was the most unreliable person there. I was the laziest person there. I was two different people. So, the start of the week I'd be the lazy, but at the end of the week I'd be the best worker there. You're living two separate people. And they could see this. And they knew, but obviously they can't prove nothing, So
I'm wondering if they brought that drug test as a way to rule out a few ideas that they had. Like if what you're describing is like, well, he comes on Monday, like he's not fully functioning. Then by Friday he's already like very productive. So something must be going on here.
And they're not silly. And that company I worked for, it was a massive mistake to leave them. And I was gutted because the staff I worked with were great. The lads, I got on with so many good lads there, and even the management were great. And it was one of the regrets of my job industry life, obviously coming up, was I think one of the managers there was a new guy who came and he was totally supportive of how I was, and he was saying, you keep like this, I'm gonna want someone to help me run the company, and it gave me,
so they clearly saw the potential,
but I just messed it up over addiction, and then I left, and then obviously I started project managing them rather than doing the chemistry stuff. So I project managed a project for a couple of years in the local area, and that was to do tire recycling, and that company's still going now, but again, you're still a functioning addict, and but I think the good thing about then was I was my own boss, if you know what I mean, and I was sort of getting away with it a little bit, which now I look back on, I think it was a bit sneaky. So obviously I finished that tender there. I then moved to another company, which actually I was self-employed then. So I then moved to another one, which was basically doing it was recycling parts of computer PCB boards and stuff like that, which was, they were building a project plant, and then obviously I got an opportunity to move to Switzerland. But in this time, while I was there, my marriage was sort of breaking down a little bit, and I was wanting to get out of basically the cycle of life I was in, because my kids had left now, and I was at home with my ex-wife, and my life was starting. I wanted to get out of and I could see it was literally going out of control, and I needed to do something for me to get. I just needed some way of getting out of the cycle of life that I was in. So
yeah, they kind of
I
the
was
cycle,
never going to break the cycle while I was still with it.
Because you're not unless there's some kind of intervention, people helping you out. It becomes self-perpetuating.
Don't get me wrong, I didn't want anybody to know what I was. People don't know. Some people won't still know until they watch this about the way I was. I must be answering a lot of questions to people as well, what I'm talking about. So it was very, I knew I had to do something. So the turning, it might sound really stupid, but the turning point in my life was being offered a job in Switzerland to go and do the project that I was doing now, to build the plant over in Switzerland. So I left. I just left. And then I told my wife, listen, this is it. I'm had enough. And she was like, yeah, you'll be back. And I didn't. And
so you left?
I left and went to live in Switzerland.
Left your family, left your wife. Yeah. So did you?
I told
her wife, your ex-wife at the moment.
Sorry, say that again.
Did you break up with your wife at this stage?
Yeah, we were broke up, and
we were broke up.
And obviously, but I think the problem was we were still sort of living in the same house, and she was suffering really bad with addiction, and I couldn't be around her, but she refused to change. But I wanted to change so much I wanted to change, because I could see my life was going nowhere. And obviously you get older and you're getting wiser, and you're like, I got to do something here. So I think Switzerland came at the right time. So literally I left with my bike, a set of golf clubs, and a suitcase. That's it. I left at everything. I left at a car, house, the lot. And I even paid the mortgage.
So you very like hard cut. I think that's probably something that it's what you needed. Is like, right, it's go cold turkey, if you will. Yeah. Just like start. Yeah. And you mentioned you took your bike. So where, was the bike in the it was
in the garage.
Did you add to in the garage? Forgotten.
The reason why I took it was forgotten, but the reason why I took my bike is because I didn't have a car in Switzerland, so I knew I had to get round some way. so I took the bike.
Yeah, that's one of the purposes of having a bike, is to move around. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, so I knew the plant was only 10 minutes away, and I thought I can just ride, because I've been over previous just to recce it and to see, and then obviously the guy who was an Indian guy said to me, do you want to come and work? And I was like, yeah, I'll come and do it. But, I mean, I went over for the job satisfaction, but I thought this is a time for me to go and reset my life. And it literally did. I went over there. Now, in Switzerland, where I lived, it was just outside Zug, and there was nothing there. There was my apartment, a farm, and a local shop over the road. That was it. And
wow, it's kind of
and
solitude.
It was, yeah. And in Switzerland, place where I was, places closed at 12 o'clock. Don't open until Monday. So there was one thing to do. A couple of things to do. I either skied, but I don't like cold. I don't like the snow.
Yeah.
Walk or mountain bike. And then that was where I got paid on my first wages while I was in Switzerland, and I went and bought a mountain bike. And I was like, oh my God, why have I not done this for so long? It just absolutely trapped me again. And I was like, I can't believe I left that behind, because I absolutely now, all I do is think about bikes. Fixing bikes, riding bikes. I just love bikes. That is
So
my
you
new
kind of,
addiction.
it sounds like a new addiction. Okay, healthy, hopefully a
Yeah.
healthy addiction this time
Yeah.
around. I mean, it's you have mentioned in the past that you're kind of, you kind of your life was, by what you described it, by all accounts, it seems like your life was going nowhere. It was broken.
It was
Kind
broken.
of,
Yeah, it
there
was.
was no kind of outlook into the future. It was just living the
I was
present.
just living a cycle.
Now we kind of, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a vicious cycle
it
that you
was. It was.
self-perpetuate
And
with drugs.
unfortunately, I had to. I mean, don't get me wrong. I most probably could have done it over here, and it was just that I had to, obviously get out of the lifestyle I was in. But I think being away from it and resetting and you know, give me time to reflect on what I needed to do. And I
Yeah.
lost. I was on the border. I was diabetic then. I was type. I wasn't a full diabetic, but I think it was type 2. I was really overweight. Really overweight. I then joined the gym, and while I was in Switzerland, I lost 3.5 stone, and it made myself fit again. I was stronger in the head. My work ethic was. I was on it. I was boom, 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 boom. But when you're out there on your own, and you're just in your own little mind, that's where it starts again. It's not the drug; it's your mental health. You start thinking of things, and it was really starting to affect me. I think it was. I'm quite a people person, and I was on my own. I couldn't speak the language, so 6 months was going by, and the place I was coming backwards and forwards to the local area, and in the local area there was a cycling CIC in the actual building where we were actually doing the plant processing, and I got on with my wife now, Hol, and she was working there, and she was, we were talking, and obviously because I was back into the bikes, I was in there all the time, and I was like, "What have we got in? What have we got this?" And Hol's a bike mechanic, so you can imagine we were talking about all kinds, and we got on.
Yeah.
So obviously over the times while I was there, over the times I was in Switzerland, we got a little bit of a relationship, me and Hol. Not serious at first, but when I was coming back, we were spending time, and we got on really well. And my relationship with my ex-wife was quite volatile. And
I can imagine.
yeah, and to be in a relationship with someone who cared, but also respected what I thought. Not respected what I thought, but would listen to what I had to say. Whereas it wasn't like that. It was either one way or no way, and everything was succumbed by the lifestyle we were living, and it was totally alien to me now. What I was going through, and I think I speak to Hall now, and Hall's give me, she believed in me more than anything else, and she was like, you are good at what you're doing, and she did believe in me, and for someone to believe in me when I never had that it's absolutely fantastic. So I started missing her, to be honest.
It's kind of someone fighting your corner,
exactly, like, fighting my corner,
helping you. Like this is the way forward.
Yeah.
It's someone that it's so sometimes is undervalued, but yeah, having that core group of friends, family, partner that really supports you, can be the catalyst for greatest change.
And when I got, obviously now, I've got my family back now. Speak to my brother, speak to my sister, so close with my mum, speak to my dad. My kids are great, you know what I mean? And I've got my core group of friends who I'd left behind are back in my life now, and life's good, But it's only because you're out of that circle of what the hell of what you're in. So obviously going back to Switzerland, obviously I'm coming backwards and forwards, and so the CIC Holly was working with Hol was the cycle development manager as well as the mechanic. So she was setting up projects and stuff like that for the local community, and they weren't getting fulfilled. She was getting let down by the directors and stuff like that. So obviously she was getting a little bit frustrated. So my time, I was getting a little bit, the project was coming to an end in Switzerland. I was looking to come back and jump onto the next one. So I had a bit of money in the bank, because you can imagine living in Switzerland, the wages are quite good. So I had a bit of money in the bank.
Yeah, they pay well.
Yeah. So
low taxes.
Yeah, exactly. Oh God, to that. But I had a bit of money in the bank. So Holly, I said, when I come back, she was like, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I would love to get back into bikes now." Because I'd literally been hook, line and sinker. I was riding bike park. I was on my bike all the time while I was in Switzerland, and I absolutely loved it. And I said I'd love to get back into, because I was quite a good cyclist when I was younger, a really good cyclist, and I still hadn't lost it. You know what I mean? When I got it, I was still all right. I was quite surprised actually. So I was thinking, yeah, I wouldn't mind. And she said, "Well, I want to get out of this. Would you do a CIC?" And I was like, "Okay, well, I've got nothing to lose." So he says. So we literally started Energise in a shed,
right,
3 years ago. And we look back now, we had 16 bikes come in. And we were like, "Oh my God, we got 16 bikes. What are we going to do with them?" We've now recycled.
And that was still in Switzerland, or
this
was
it.
already
This was back at home. I'd come back home then. I'd literally finished the project.
Okay, back at home,
so
back in Scotland.
Yeah, so I'd come home and me and Holly got together, and I was living, and then we moved in, and just our relationship really went well, and I absolutely adore her. So we started Energise in the shed. This was just over 3 years ago. 3 years ago. 3 years September coming. And I think we had a little bit in our backyard, and we had 16 bikes, and we were like in the shed, and we could just about fit in it to fix them, and we were recycling them, we were donating them. And then just by chance, I was cycling, and a guy was saying, "Oh, we've got a little bit of space in the unit if you want," you know what I mean? And this is just cycling on a mountain bike ride, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll go and have a look." So we got this little unit, but it was the offices of a warehouse, and we were sharing it with the company next door. And it was great, we were like, "Whoa, this is great," we've got our 2 workshops, and we got a little space. And 16 bikes went to 100, then to 2, then to 3. And I think on our last count, we've recycled nearly 2,500 bikes in 3 years into the community.
Impressive.
Into just giving them for kids to get cycling. So you can see, I think what I've seen, and I'm going back, I'm thinking, this is sort of touching base where I was younger and I couldn't afford stuff here. Because where we are, where's Energise based, it's not deprived, it's not the ghetto. It's everybody, but there's some poverty around the area. Not everyone. I could have a bike for £3,000, maybe sat there, a mountain bike. It'll sit there forever because no one will buy it, because no one can afford it. But people will buy £50 bikes. People will come in and we will donate. So we donate to the missions, we donate to schools, we work with local charities just to try and get people cycling. So obviously we were in this building, and then we partnered up with the local authority who were building a new neighbourhood. So we were building flats and stuff like that, and he was saying, "We want a some sort of infrastructure for our cycling to come. Would you be willing to move over in as part of us?" I mean, we absolutely jumped at the chance,
Of course.
So they provided us with an absolutely fantastic facility, and don't get me wrong, it's all not free. It costs, and so. But when we moved over, we hadn't earned a penny in 2 years. So I had no wages coming in. So you can imagine my funds are running quite low there.
Yeah.
And I think you learn in business, don't you? And CICs is totally different. And we got a lot of bad advice. And we were chasing for nearly a year to be a charity, and just getting knocked back and knocked back and knocked back.
Right.
So we were just Energise Cycles. We weren't a CIC in the first year. So we get no funding. We couldn't apply for grants. We couldn't. So I'm living off trying to recycle bikes and make money. You're never going to make a living at that. Maybe the guy in the shed will do that, but not as an organisation. You're never going to make money at that. There's just too much inner workings for you to make money out of that. It's good as a sideline.
Yeah.
So it took us a year, which I think we'd lost, to over bad advice, over people you trusted and you didn't get. So we turned to be a CIC, and then obviously we can apply for grants. But then again, because we'd lost a year, we had no accounts. So then we're literally just getting bits and bobs. And it's literally maybe in the last 6 months where we've started getting paid. Don't get me wrong, I'm not on absolute fortune of money. But project means so much to me, Hal, is that it makes me get up. And also, I'm working with bikes, which makes me get out of bed. So
yeah. So talk us a little bit about, what is the purpose for Energise Cycles? You mentioned that you are upcycling bicycles, you're recycling them and gifting them, selling them to.
So it's not just that. We've got a lot of branches off Energise, and obviously, I think I've been through quite a lot, and I thought when you're out and you're working with these organisations, you're seeing addicts, you're seeing mental health, but you're also seeing youth crime, knife crime. I mean, I've seen some horrific things when I was back in the past of what happens during Underworld and gangs and stuff, because I basically was in a gang. So I was thinking, I was sitting to Hull, I wouldn't mind trying to put Energise sort of in the bracket of that. Obviously, you've got to go training and stuff like that. So we started doing the mental health stuff. So we worked with a couple of organisations doing their rides, and we've done now for 2 years. We've done the suicide prevention ride on the Whittle, and we've had 70 riders turn up for this each year, and it's 20 odd miles all together cycling just for suicide prevention. So we do that, but I've set up like 2 of the projects now. Their cycle infrastructure have changed, their cycle leaders and stuff like that. But obviously to help these organisations, I had to go and get training myself. So I did a cycle leadership course with Cycle UK, and to be honest with you, I found it really easy. So the guy who trained me was a local guy, and he said, you'd be a good instructor if you do, because you're quite passionate about it and stuff like that. So I enrolled with MyAS then, which is the Mountain Bike Instructors Award Scheme. And I did their level 1, level 2. And I spoke to the guy, Martin, because I was helping the other guy doing the mountain bike leader and anyway. So I thought, I like doing this. So I then took my level 4 and I did an off-road leadership course as well. So then I became an instructor. So then I had the tools to take into the community to obviously try and set up these organisations' cycle infrastructure. So I helped a few, and then I've obviously done ride leader training in, in Landegler. So I do the ride leader training there for mountain bike leadership, level 1, level 2. But I was thinking, I thought there's something else I could do here with this. So we reached out. So the guy who taught me how to do the mountain bike leadership skill first with Cycle UK he did a project in Liverpool with a lot of kids involved in county lines. So we run through the project with me, and I thought, this is something we could do here. So it's a 6-week project, and basically the kids get a bike and they learn to fix it. But I thought, there's something else I can do with this. You know what I mean? There's another outlet with this. Because Chris, who was doing it, he's an ace guy, and he hadn't had the experiences of what I had with these lads. So it's sort of me, I can talk the talk with them, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can reciprocate to what they are going for.
So I know the language. So we set up a course, and we done it. First one was with the police. First and last. I'll never do it again. Honestly, I'll never do it again because it was supposed to build.
Why is that?
It just the police didn't work. It just
yeah. Too intimidating, perhaps?
It wasn't intimidating. I think it just didn't work. The kids were trying it, and it just I don't know. There was something about it. It just did not work. Don't get me wrong. It was great. The kids loved it, and they didn't want to stop. And I still have lads from the first course coming in. I'll tell you the story about one of the lads on the first course. So they still come, and it worked for us. I don't think it worked for them.
Okay.
There was a bit of bad blood about it, and police got accommodations, and we didn't even get a bench. And so it was sort of that's it. I'll run on myself now. So off that, I sort of sat down. I thought, I can twist this a little bit and sort of get a little bit more punchy and more that the kids want to come to. So what we've done is we introduced mountain bike rides with them as well. So we run a 6-week course now with them. So it's 6 weeks for 3 hours in a week. And they get given up.
So these young lads are young lads that are at risk of committing crimes, or they have committed crimes already.
So I have lads and ladies, by the way, from the age of 9 up to 19. The elder lads, I've had lads on tags, I've had lads on probation, I've had lads who are being groomed. You name it, I've had the broad spectrum. Problem we've got around here is we've got a lot of postcode wars, massive postcode wars. I've had lads sat in that room who would never ever, who would literally fight each other if they were seen in the street. But they're in the same room working on a bike together. Honestly, I have. So these lads are all in that bracket, and ladies, by the way. So it's not just lads, it's ladies. So they come for 6 weeks. They get given a bike, but it's not just an Apollo. They'll get a Giant or a Trek or a Carrera. It's got to be something which will bring them in. So they come in. These bikes would have been in landfill, by the way. We don't go out and buy brand new bikes for them. We literally go out and we get the worst of the world. Donation bikes.
Get donations
so we get donations from the public, and we put them to one side because we think, that'll do well for the course, so we'll put it to one side. And then we'll come in, and then the training starts with them. So they'll learn how to use tools, how to respect the workshop, how to talk to people, listen, how to, ask questions. Because what you've got to remember, some of these kids don't even go to school. The amount of kids I've had here who cannot read or write, and I'm talking 18-year-olds, it's absolutely shocking. And I was absolutely blown away when I first started it. So you're giving them a little bit of structure, but you're not a teacher.
Yeah.
You're not. So they don't look at this. One of the first things I say to them, guys, this isn't school. You get out of this what you want to get out of it. So we introduce them to the bikes, and they get fed as well. Massive thing is to feed them, because some of them won't even have had food all day. And that's a shocking reality, but they don't. They'll be living off scraps.
Yeah.
So we'll give them something to eat, and the belly's full, they'll listen. So they come, they learn how to fix the bikes, so they'll literally transform these bikes. And we go mountain biking twice. They do first aid, so we give them a first aid certificate. So, and they do a Gears Award, which is a mountain bike riding award. So, one of the big things is they turn up. They never turn up to school. I guarantee you that they're here an hour earlier, some of them, for this course, because they love it. So they'll come, they'll do that. But also, you'll be surprised on when we're mountain biking, how many of the lads open up to you and ask you for advice. I've been doing this, I'm being involved in that, how do I get out of it? And I'm like, dude, it's not the way forward. And, I tell them about, how, what, I don't go into details, but I say, I was in it and I know what you're going through, because peer pressure is huge. If we get lads who are 16 to 18 have left school and they're just in the youth, the youth justice system and stuff like that, I'll go to the college, which is round the corner, and I'll ask one of the tutors or one of the guys who promotes the college to come in and sit down with the lads and say to them, what are you interested in? Do you like engineering? Bang, there's that. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Because these won't ever go to that college because they'll never walk through the door. But you bring the college to them. I've had 4 enrolled last year, just off coming for the college club. And they're still there now. And literally they pop in and have the dinner here. They'll sit down and have dinner because they just need a bit of a chill. Or they'll come in, wow, what bike are you working on today? And it's great. You've got, some of them have got the biggest egos in the world. And they will be literally, I don't do this, I know better. And they're so focused on what they've got going on around their area. When you take them mountain biking, they become kids again. Because there's no egos in the woods. There's nobody watching them. And literally, they just go, this is great. And then some of these kids have never been out the city. I had one lad about 4 months ago when we said we were going to Wales. He said to me, is that near Benidorm? And I was like, no, mate, it's literally, he literally thought he was going on holiday. Because he just never, ever done anything like it. And to take them up a hill and for them to see the landscape and it draws them in so good. But also, the ability that some of these lads have got on a bike is absolutely phenomenal. Because these kids ride these bikes every day. And don't get me wrong, some of them are on these lecky bikes and, you know, they're wheeling for days. It's unbelievable. And if you could just structure something into them, these kids could be world beaters in the mountain bike industry because the skills they've got, uncaged talent they've got sitting there is absolutely amazing. And you're like, I had a lad literally going down a fire road on one wheel doing 30 mile an hour with one hand on the handlebars. It's crazy. And he's just, and you're like, do you, and he's literally doubling jumps and he'd never been to a bike park in his life. But he's building,
it's impressive.
Yeah, he's building jumps in the local woods, and this is what I get now, all of that local woods. So it will be great.
It sounds like you are giving them like an outlet, something that they can express themselves through, something like refine their new sense of pride and purpose.
It is.
And like through giving practical skills, emotional ways of dealing with their own stuff that they're going through, and they can also relate to your experience, to what you have gone through, and that impart some kind of wisdom into what they are going through now, and just use that Energise Cycles as a community hub.
It is, and that's what we want this to be. Don't get me wrong; it's not just for these lads. We have rides on a Thursday for local rides. We have them on a Sunday for historic rides. So it's not just about these young lads, but going back onto these young lads, we get kit donations and we'll get, maybe some Fox t-shirts or gloves or, and we'll give them to them. They will wear them until they fall off their back because they absolutely love them. And helmets and it's just, I think one of the downsides to this project is that it's funding all the time. And there's no more funding for these courses now at the moment. And I've got a list of kids like that wanting to come on. And I want to do not just for naughty kids. There's kids that come in here who are mountain bikers who build the trails locally and stuff like that. And it would be just great for, I don't know, a bike industry manufacturer or something like that to start backing this. Because I'm fortunate now and I help out on a downhill racing team now, a junior development one, and I absolutely love it. And I'm doing nationals with them and mountain biking, and the kids that are on the race team are, they're going to be huge stars, and not just on our racing team, but I see, in the circuit, these kids, and I think you're going to be big here. You're going to be big because they've got it, but they are lucky because they got parents that will back them. I have kids coming in here every single week if they had a backing of somebody or a bit of money to put them through it, or even just to send them to one race, these kids could be just as good as them kids. It's just unfortunate that they haven't got the support mechanism like these young lads have got, or young ladies have got. And it's so soul destroying, to see these kids coming in who are, who are wanting to so much succeed in life in the mountain bike industry and will absolutely obsess over bikes when you come in and they're like, oh, you're fixing this and you're fixing that, And I think to myself, oh my God, you could really, really do something with yourself here. But there's no support mechanism for it. And this is what I've found when I started Energise Cycles, how unsupportive the bike industry is to youth.
Right.
And to not just unsupportive of it, but it's basically a who you know and what you know sometimes. And I will I've knocked down doors to try and get stuff done for these lads and stuff. And you've literally got to get in front of the right person sometimes. Because, I've asked for kit donations, for these lads, gloves, hats, helmets, pads, and you write off to manufacturers, and all you'll get is, oh, I'm sorry, because you're not reaching the right person. But it's a shame, because I don't know, everyone's got to make money. It's a business. I totally understand that. But, there's a lot out there that can be done for these young kids. A lot. And they're the next generation.
Yeah. And it's kind of, they need the helping hand, and kind of the project, the community interest company that you have, Energise Cycles, is kind of providing that support, and kind of it's always, I guess, kind of ever-changing change of wanting to bring resources and funding to support these projects. And he often relies on people like you that are passionate, mission-driven, that put their souls into it and just try to hold it together. And I think it's something that kind of definitely needs to change.
It really does. Yeah, there's a lot of. Don't get me wrong. I'm in the bike industry, and it's not just the young lads to do it. We look after the spectrum of people here, and even I'd say we got a ride on today, which is for cardiovascular people, and it's only 5 miles, but it's introducing them to cycling again, because where we are, we're based in a wonderful part of the world where we've got 15 to 20 miles of coastline we can ride down here, and it's absolutely fantastic. So the where we're based is great, but I know myself, I'm in the cycling world myself, and I talk to people in the industry, and I know the cycling industry's on its knees. But if you're not supporting the next customer or the next rider or the next world champion who maybe come from a deprived area, will it ever change?
Yeah, no, it won't. It won't. If there needs to be more awareness to projects like this that are really are a community hubs and are dynamic, are pulling people and kind of giving them tools, whether to deal with their emotion, deal with the practical ways of going about life, and the bike presents itself as a way to move them forward, give them choices, give them the freedom, empower them to make better decisions in their lives.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's kind of sometimes where when you look at the industry, sometimes it's kind of you neglecting that side. Like, you're looking more at the enthusiastic side, but you also need to open to the person that doesn't know doesn't own a bike, doesn't have any interest in it. But what you're doing is like, okay, well, we have here an opportunity to showcase what the bike is doing to improve these people's lives, whether it is just going for a 5-mile bike ride where he's taking these kids out of crime, out of gangs, and building their skills, building up their lives to be a better person. Perhaps.
Yeah, it's not just the kids though. We do a volunteer day here on a Tuesday, and my volunteers literally are gold. But the widowers, they've lost family. They come here to get out of their house because there's no one to speak to, and there's a gang of gents in there, and they come and they fix bikes, but it's not just that; it's their mental wellness that they're getting support on.
Yeah.
Some of these guys who have volunteered for us now on a Tuesday now volunteered on a Thursday and lead the rides for us now. So, they've become part of our family, if you like it, and they're absolutely fantastic, as our staff. And also, like, going back to how you can change, people's perception on people. When I say I'll go back, there was a young lad who's on our first course, and don't get me wrong, he was an absolute nightmare, but you could see something in him. He loved bikes, and when he was around us, he wouldn't shut up about them. And we were told not to touch him. Don't touch him. He's been through every single thing. You'll never get through to him. You just leave him. That lad's now got a maintenance certificate. He's a ride leader who works with me now, leading these rides with the young lads, and is now enrolled in college. He's been there for 2 years now. And
it's huge transformation.
It's a huge transformation because we let him come, and I don't want to get involved in that. I want to get away from this. Well, come and when you come to the workshop, do a couple of hours with me, and you end up having a chat with them, and he's absolutely, he's a little legend now. And we've got, it's not just him. We have another lad who comes in. This young lad was born before his time. Honestly, he buy and sell, yeah. And he comes in with a different bike. What do you think of this? Fix this up, and then away he goes. And then the next week he's in with a different bike. Oh, I got this one off the tip, and he comes in and he's got a passion for it. But I think to myself, yeah, it's great to see young kids with a passion rather than sitting in front of Xboxes and PlayStations and not, not being social. He's out building his own jumps, building his own bikes, and absolutely having a whale of a time.
Yeah.
It just resonates, and I know it's a bike, and I know it's just fixing things and stuff like that, but it was one of the turning points for me. And as I say, there's a big logo on our place. It's like, my bike fixed me. When it's broken, you fix it. When you're broken, my bike fixes me. It still does now. I still go out on it. I was lucky enough to. We've got another one. Like, obviously, we got donated that chain Danny Hart broke in one of the World Cups. We've got it in a little box, and it's like a resonating story to that. It's like, you can still succeed in life if your chain breaks. He did. He won a World Cup when he broke his chain. It doesn't mean to say when your chain's broke, you can't succeed, because you can. And it's a good way of a metaphor to get using a bike. It's just little things and that, but they'll listen to that. It's just.
It sounds like it. Yeah. It sounds like it's you are inspiring change in these people's lives, in the volunteers, in the kids, the people that come to you to work in the workshop, to volunteer, to learn new skills. And that's sometimes it's kind of these small acts, which is kind of in the context of the world, these small acts. You just have helping them for 2 hours, but those create ripple effects.
100%.
Those create massive changes in the world of those people. Just to be able to get out of the house, just to be able to remove themselves from bad influences, and kind of it breaks in the same way, I guess, where you needed that rupture and you moved to a new role in Switzerland. You are kind of making that change. You are making that rupture, allowing them, facilitating that rupture as well by providing them with skills, providing them with an outlet. And the bike is a huge resource to allow people to gain a bit of freedom, explore, give them choices, empower them to upskill and just move up, whether it is making connections, whether it is career wise, finding a job. I mean, it's a brilliant way, and I think that's kind of stories like this just remind us that having an impact within your local community by just offering help, recycling bikes and gifting them to charities, to schools, and kind of having really a focus on improving the community around you kind of brings a wealth of joy and happiness to the people that live in it.
Yeah, it is. It's so true. Kids love bikes. Adults love bikes. Everyone loves a bike. And it can transform your life. It might seem, you go down the road and you might go 5 miles. But if the person doesn't know, you take them on a ride and you come back. And this guy or lady have never really ventured out on a bike for, say, they were teenage. And you come back and you say, we've just done 10 miles there. We only went for cake. They're like, no way. And you're like, really? And it's even down to instilling skills, not just in younger generation, but in the older generation as well. We do like a free maintenance course here. It's basically 2 hours, how to look after your bike, fix a puncture. And we had an old lady and she was like, I've come on your course because I don't know how to do punctures. And we were like, okay. And we showed her and away she went. We didn't see her for a couple of months. And she got a puncture and she fixed it herself. And the first thing she done was come through the door and said, you never guess what I've just done? I've just fixed my own puncture and I'm absolutely made up. And I was like, okay. But to her, that was absolutely huge because that was one of the things that was stopping her going even further on a bike because she was scared of getting stuck. Because now,
or even getting out of the house.
Now she's away. She loves it. And job's done. If that helps, I'm happy. So
yeah. I mean, I wanted to kind of. I mean, it's you shared a lot of like your experience, and now you're using that experience to transform other people's lives, other young people, transform their outlook and break the cycle of whether it is like wherever the path they are on to improve themselves. I mean, I wanted to kind of ask you from your perspective. I mean, and this taking to the listener, for someone listening in and like stuck in a cycle of negative habits, what would you say to them? What is the one thing or the first step they can take to change that?
I think the first step is you've got to want to change in there. And that's why I said that. You will never ever.
So it has to come deep from the heart.
You've got to, and I wanted to change, but it was a reality check that made me change. But if you are not heart set on changing, you'll last a couple of months if you're lucky. You've got to want to do. If you want to change something, you've got to want to do it. If you don't want to do it and you're just doing it for you're having a bad day or you need to change or you've got no money, and it is what it is. You're just like, I need to change.
Yeah.
You've got to want to change. And that's what I would say to someone. First steps is change. If you want to change it. But change a lot as well. You've got to change the way you outlook at life. I think you've got to change the way you live your life. And also, you've got to literally cut out the negativity as well. And that's what I do.
Yeah. So,
you've got to cut it out. Because you could be, say for instance, you've had I don't know, you've been on the island or on a bender all weekend, and then you're like, I've had enough, I'm not doing it now. As soon as you step back into that cycle, it's there, and it'll just rot away. You've got something inside you saying, a little voice saying, you'll be all right. Just have one more. Just do it one more time. You'll be fine. And then you can do it again at the end of the week. And then the end of the week will come and then you're doing it again. And it's like, it's okay. We'll start again Monday. It's like dieting, isn't it? You know, it's like going on a diet. How many people go on these diets and then, I'll have a burger tonight though. And then I'll start tomorrow.
I'll start tomorrow.
It's just an addiction. Exactly that you're using something to eat. It's literally exactly the same. And you've got to want to do it. And the change, I'd say for diets, you're changing your lifestyle. You're not just changing your habits. You're going to the gym to change your lifestyle. Then what happens? You get gym friends. So you're changing your way you are living your life by, you know, and it's the same with cycling. You start cycling. So I've joined a group on Facebook. Bang. Oh, anybody ride here? Yeah, come and join our group. It's a new friend. You're out of the cycle. So you've got to want to, you won't do it by just saying, I want to do it. You've got to want to do it, and you've got to change the way you do things. And well, that's how it worked for me anyway.
You know, kind of sounds like from what you're saying, it has to be a visceral kind of emotional want, and that kind of then that perhaps needs to be as also paired with kind of a more rational way of thinking about it. So it can't just be a rational way. I want to change my habits. It needs to come from a deep core. You need to almost change your core beliefs of what change will look like.
Yeah, it is. And you know, I've got a new outlook on life now. I've got I've took on 2 gorgeous daughters as well now, who I absolutely idolise, as well as my older lads. You know, my older lads are grown men now, but I've got 2 teenage daughters now who, you know, I absolutely idolise the ground they walk on. So they, you know, I look at my life and I say, how lucky I am really to get that second chance. You know, not that I regret anything I've done with my sons. You know, I give everything to my sons. But I think it's nice to have a sort of having a second chance, if you know what I mean, with the girls. And you know, I absolutely love them. You know, and that gives me another sense of purpose as well. You know, to not obviously go back to the way I will never ever go back to the way I was, because my life is so different to what it was back then. Don't get me wrong, running a CIC is not a barrel of laughs, and it's not. I'll never be a millionaire, put it that way.
I'm sure. I'm sure. But it's an impact. It's a purpose and it's a mission-driven impact that you're creating 100%. Around people.
That's my pay. You know, for me to, if I can, you know, if someone's come here and sat down just had to have coffee with us, you know, the door's always open for these guys. You know, we use the use as a toilet breaks, or if someone will just pop in just for the chat. If they've just popped in and we've give them half an hour of our time and they walk out feeling better than when they walked in, job done.
Yeah, I mean, you can't quantify the change. You can't quantify that. I mean, that's that change, that kind of that time that you're giving is probably something that they don't get anywhere else, whether it is from their friends, from their family. And that, you know, that's something that it's a tiny gesture, but as huge repercussions and you know what how you make that person feel. And you as well, because you know the work you're doing also is changing you, is making you feel. I don't want to say what you feel, but because I don't know, but it's changing you, because that amount of contact with people you have, working with you or volunteering with you or coming to talk to you, it's, you know, it certainly makes a whole kind of rewiring on the brain of, how you connect to people, how you speak to them. What does that make you feel?
I mean,
at the end of the day, when you have these,
I'm absolutely
when you go to bed, what are you thinking?
I mean,
when you reflect on the day.
every day's different, isn't it? Sometimes you can do the courses with the lads and it absolutely drains you. Oh my God, you're just mentally drained. But they walk out and they felt they got something out of it, then I'm happy. Obviously, we're not just, we're a bike shop as well, so we do repairs as well. So, my day, most of the days, is fixing community bikes and Holly is as well with me. So obviously Holly's partner in the business and we work together. So, some days I'm tired and it's hard, but, you get up and you do it again. But I think the sense of satisfaction that someone comes in and will trust in what you say and take your advice, but also choose you to be their sounding board and to listen. It means a lot to me, that, because I never had that.
Yeah.
I never had anybody who I could go to and say, I'm having a bit of a tough time here, at the moment. Maybe that was an ego thing with me. I don't know. But talking to somebody helps huge.
Yeah.
And if that means I stand there and I listen to someone for half an hour and they, as I say, walk out, I go home. Yeah, I know I've helped them today. And it's the same on a bike ride. We'll go riding. Yeah, I absolutely I love that. Obviously, sometimes it can be an absolute burden in your day, or they'll stop you doing a job which you need to get out. But it's important to do that. You know what I mean? To give people that time.
Yeah.
If they come in here and I was like, sorry, mate, I'm too busy. Just come back tomorrow.
You would be just doing the same thing that everyone does.
Exactly.
Does to them. You're not giving them the time.
No. Just giving them that time to come in and talk maybe about, I don't know, something they do down. They'll come in and be like, oh wow, this and it might not even be bike related. They were like, I was just passing. Do you mind if we have coffee? Yeah, go on. And then they'll come stand round you while they're fixing a bike, and I'm like, I'll carry on, but you can talk. I'll do listen. And they'll be like, oh yeah, and they'll just talk and they'll be asking you what your day was. But I think sometimes them asking you how your day was can sometimes reflect on them. They'll think, I'm not doing too bad, And I'm like, you okay? And, you need to chat about anything. And, you can come in any time. And I think they know that the door's always open for them to come in. Yeah, I think it gives them a little bit of a reassurance. So going back to how I feel, I absolutely love this job. And I love Energise. It's shaping out to be exactly what we wanted it to be. It's still hard, but when you help people, it's sort of the good things go against the hard things, and that's why we get up, and that's why we open the door every day, So it is hard sometimes, mate. I still suffer massively with my mental health sometimes, and some days, it's like, I can't be bothered with this. But sometimes me chatting to them can help me. You know what I mean? Because we get some absolute characters in here. and they make you dead, honest to God. But and you see some absolute things, honest to God. I've seen some absolute spikes that come in. You're like, dude, how are you riding that? They're like, I absolutely love this, And you're like, oh my God, dude, and it's a man of a laugh. But as I say, they can help me. I as I say, I still suffer, and everybody does, I think, and I don't care how strong-minded you are, everyone has a bad day, don't they? So
very good.
Yeah.
I mean it just reflects kind of that sense of purpose, and it doesn't mean that there's always be a good day, but it's like that, the mission and the purpose that you have, and the kind of the immediate effect that he brings to the people that come to Energise Cycles changes that, and it kind of allows you to like you mentioned, even help you in as well in the bad days.
Yeah, it's true.
when you're tired and like bureaucracy is taking a massive pain.
It is.
Yeah,
It is.
it's a remarkable though, how human connection and kind of the sense of purpose when humans are helping other humans, it's just changes the outlook in life. And that is one of the things that kind of really, I think, from what I find, is like brings you immense happiness, because when you do something for someone and don't expect anything back in return, and that the other person just feels immense joy and feels grateful for what you've done, it's you're just helping. And that is something that is not, you can't measure it, but it is changing people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, the way I like people to remember when they come to Energise is not what we say, is how you felt when you left. That's more important to me.
Yeah.
I can chat the arm and leg off anybody, mate. And I'll give it to the best of people. But if I make you feel better, or Holly makes you feel better when you leave here, I'm happy with that. Brilliant. It's absolutely amazing. So, and it helps you open the door in the morning.
Very good. I wanted to kind of, I mean, maybe you already touched on this, but as part of the tradition, I always ask guests one fundamental question, and which is, what does success look like to you?
I think success for us at the moment is keeping the doors open. It's a top. There's little funding, there's little backing at the moment for projects. Everybody's after the same purse strings, as you say. And things are getting expensive. Even just putting the lights on is expensive. So to be kept going is a massive success for us. I mean, success to me, obviously, if the project's still recognised as being a success and we're still helping people, then that I'm successful with that. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not looking to build a chain of Energise Cycles, because the way I see Energise Cycles is Energise Cycles as being Hull. We can't do it anywhere else. So our success is within these 4 walls. So, but I think I would love to have it just to be able to reach a bigger, more audience, if you know what I mean, and to, I don't know, maybe give some of these people a little bit more of a chance, and to give, I don't know, younger lads, well, older ones, they to keep their doors open is great for them. They absolutely love it. But to be able to invest in the younger generation through Energise, and to absolutely, support them with, I don't know, outside support would be absolutely amazing, because we are so limited to what we could do, and we've literally scratched the surface of what we can do. Whereas if there was more support for not just our project, but for other projects as well, by the way, I'm not scoping for this, you know what I mean? But, there's other projects similar to what we do, but you hear of stories of projects closing all the time because of lack of funding and lack of support and lack of sponsorship. So, if other agencies and other places can support likes of what we do, the success could be absolutely amazing. So I would love to be able to, I don't know, maybe bring more support to younger lads more than young ladies into maybe achieving their dreams, because somebody's absolutely a dream of being the next Sam Pilgrim, or the next Ben Deacon or someone like that, because they sit there and watch these guys on YouTube and they, it's not they want to be a footballer, they want to be a mountain biker, but unfortunately they haven't got the the capacity to do it because the support mechanism isn't there for them.
Yeah.
So success for me is, carrying on Energise legacy and giving it back as much as we can. But it'd be great to give more.
Yeah, it's always the kind of this fine balance. It's, you doing the work and kind of putting a lot of sweat and tears into these community interest companies that are always driven by passionate people, and also bringing along companies, whether it is bike manufacturers, clothing companies, that make them see and believe in what the results you're already achieving with the community, with the people that you're touching with the mountain bike. And I think that's also why I wanted to kind of have this conversation with you, because it's also a way of the expanding and kind of using the podcast as a loudspeaker to share this story and kind of make it more relatable to people working in the industry that can help you in some way.
I mean, as you say, not just the bike industry, every industry's, every industry's suffering, I think, as well. But, it doesn't take a lot to back a company as small as us. But, as you say, on ripple effects, mate, their little bit of support can mean absolutely huge things to these young guys. I pick up old, honestly, I pick up old grips off the races, and they just get swapped in and out, don't they? Tires and stuff like that. And I've been lucky to get loads of clothing and all that. And you wouldn't believe to get a set of death grips. They're like, oh my god, and you put them on, and they've been worn, but they don't care. They're not bothered, and to give them stuff. I can't afford to go out and get stock of this to give away. It's not fundamental. But there's warehouses most probably covered in all this stuff. There's there's stuff in, I don't know, these big brands that have got all kinds of clothing and stuff like that. A couple of boxes of clothing here for kids. That's nothing, is it? But you try and get them through to them, mate. It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen, yeah. Yeah, it's true. Joe, I need to make a pause here because I need to ask you a question, but the question is not in front of me. So just bear with me. This won't be. I will cut this out of the podcast. Babe, but just bear with me. The conversation is going well, but I just need this question.
Sorry, I go off tangent, don't I?
No, it's all right. That's okay. That's okay. Okay, right. I have it here. Okay. Right. I mean, thanks for sharing that. I mean, hopefully with the podcasts, we can, with my own way of amplifying your voice, there might be a way of reaching to more companies and kind of them being curious and wanting to know how to help you more. So I think if that I can do, then that's perhaps a kickstarter to something bigger. And I wanted now to kind of again drop it into a tradition that I started on the podcast, which is every guest leaves a question to my next guest, not knowing who they are. And the question that was left for you is this: how did you overcome the critic in your head?
Critic in my head. That's a good one, that. Depends what I criticise myself about, I suppose. I am super critical of myself, by the way, so it's a good question. I think I thrive to do the right thing all the time, and I can self-doubt myself massively sometimes. Wow, it's a good question that actually. So what was it again? How
do you overcome the critic in your head?
How do I overcome the critic on my head? I think maybe I do question myself quite a lot. So I think everything you do now, I've learned to take a minute and not go. I've made a lot of mistakes in these last couple of years of running this, and some can be quite not massive affecting, but you learn. So if I was going to critic myself, I'd say slow down.
Yeah.
And take a minute. And that's what I've started doing. Whereas I used to just say, this is the way we do it, and that's the way we do it. And that's the way we go. And I'm doing it, and I don't care. And I wouldn't listen to Hall, and I'd just do it. Because I worked for myself for so long. I just did my own thing. So I do criticise myself now. And now I think one of the things I would say to myself is, slow down a bit, give it a minute, have a think about it, and does this meet our mission statement? And is it staying in between it? And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
So I do criticise myself massively on that, because I used to just go, oh, we got to go for that. But it was more to get money coming into the company. Whereas now, I've made the mistake, and I do criticise myself on why I did that and why am I doing this, rather than just doing it. You know, because sometimes you can spend so much time on that for nothing, when you could have done it that way and listened to someone and maybe not just criticise yourself, but they criticise you for doing the wrong thing. So I think slow down. You're quite easily to get off track in this industry, and massively. You can.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
you can get. I mean, one of the things is like you can get carried away. You can just start kind of an internal monologue and just get carried away. But what you are suggesting and mentioning from your experience is just take stock, hold that critic a little minute, give that critic kind of, hold on, I listened to you, maybe let's do something to kind of
I was
reassess.
Yeah, I was, when we started Energise, I was really, 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 this is what I do, and I'm doing it, and I know better, and I'm doing it, and I'd shut everyone. I'm going this way, and I'm doing it that way. And then you think, should have listened there. You know, maybe I should have took stock and maybe put a pause on it, and I do that now. You know, don't get me wrong, not all the time, but I do sort of think, how can I achieve something better, rather than just going in all guns blazing, you know. And does, as I say, back to the mission thing, does it meet what Energise is doing, and is it under our remit? And am I stepping out of somewhere where someone else could pick up that, and maybe I could say, I can't do this, but I do know someone that can do it. And that's maybe where I will criticise myself, as maybe taking on too much, because you burn out so quick. Yeah.
That's one of the problems with I guess being having many roles to perform, having being very passionate about what you're doing, and just everything just becomes very it can become very self-critical. And I think that it's important to take a pause and just notice what is happening around you. And
because
going back to what you're saying, like, is this important to what we're doing? Is this the right steps?
Yeah, I mean, being a CIC is a lot to learn, and if I knew that, maybe would I have looked at this a little bit different? Maybe, but I don't think I'd change anything. as I've made the mistakes, I've sort of got stronger in my head a little bit, and also you as you say, it's the common saying, you learn by your mistakes, and by damn you do. Or I think one thing you need to be careful, and I want to give it, something about the CIC is there's many people who are quite quick to give you advice but not support you, and I think that's a lot in a lot of industries. But we found that, and a lot of people who will say, "I'm there for you and I'll help you," and they're not. When the Essex the fan, mate, they're gone. And you're left to pick up the pieces yourself. So
the pieces.
Yeah. So
Very good. I mean, well, that's a brilliant insight into the experience of running, community interest company.
Yeah.
And what it entails. Joe, it's been brilliant to share this space with you. Kind of learn more about you, and what the transformation has led you to where you are now. It's really remarkable and puts in perspective, what can be achieved if you change, if you put your mind to it, if you change the group of people around you, if you have people believing in you. It's really remarkable, and I think kind of you are using that experience, your life experience, to help others that either are in the same boat as you were when you were as an addict, and you are kind of making other people's lives change for the better. So, and that's something that it's just sometimes is unquantifiable, but you can see that every day, with the interactions you have on the shop. So yeah, it's just remarkable to have these stories shared, because it's not often, and sometimes it's not about just being the CEO of a company and talking about that experience. It's about also that these stories actually sometimes are the most valuable, because it just is what makes change feel more rewarding.
Yeah, I mean, what you do is absolutely great to give the sounding board for people who would never be heard. There's a lot of podcasts out there who wouldn't even give anybody or any of your guests a chance to come and make their soundboard or to give their version of life. And to give the way they've changed their, not just in the industry, but also to give how to maybe give someone else a platform to change, and think maybe I'm going down that. But it's all right having these podcasts and saying, he's on a podcast, he's doing this podcast, but for what you do, I'm no superstar. I'm not, in the public eye. I'm not famous who can just come on a podcast and give my version, because maybe if it was, we might reach a lot more people than what I do now. So not just for me coming on, mate, but for what you do, to give people a chance to obviously come on and hear what not just in the industry, but what happened in their life. It gives them a massive platform to reach maybe abroad and more. So well done. But
thank you.
No, it's absolutely fantastic, mate. I just wish there was more of a platform for more people for you to reach. For people to reach out and to help. Sitting there listening to, you can listen to any podcast, mate, and be inspired. I'm still. You're still talking to people, but on a different platform. It's just me and you having a talk and someone sitting in listening, but you can still get inspired by that. I listen to several podcasts. I'm a massive podcast listener, and I've listened to several of yours, and some of the stories I've heard on them are absolutely amazing. But would they have been heard on any others? No. So that's one thing I would say.
Brilliant. I mean, Yeah, it's thanks for the recognition
No,
and thanks
you
for the
deserve it,
support.
dude.
I mean, that's me also trying to pay you back.
Yeah.
Not pay you back, but it's giving you back the compliment for the work you've been, because also deserves the recognition.
Yeah, but you given me the platform to tell my story. Obviously, gives Energise a bigger platform to shout out, rather than me just shouting to the local area or putting posts out on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. This could build onto me maybe helping another organisation by going to talk to their staff or to go and talk to some of their guys, or maybe going to talk to students, which I have done before, to obviously try and steer them away from the way they're living, and I have done that, because I think you can't get any more qualifications than life, and life is the biggest qualification you ever earn. The University of Life is teaching you every single day.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I think I can be more qualified than somebody else standing there trying to tell a kid, or someone with mental health, dude, don't go sitting in that corner. Come and talk to me about it. Maybe don't get me wrong, I'm not a psychologist, I might not be able to help you, but sometimes you just need these, that's all you need. And
exactly, just need to listen to the person.
You do, mate, you do.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks, Joe, again. It's been a pleasure.
No, I've enjoyed it, dude, honestly. It's just, as I say, thanks, mate, because, you give me the platform to talk, where a lot of people don't want to give you that.
Thanks for listening until the end. Joe's story shows just how far a bike and belief can take you. If this conversation got you thinking about how cycling can shape your mindset, please share it with 2 friends who might love it too. Thanks for riding with us, and see you on the next episode. Thank you for listening.